And here, my friends, we'll have a very important thing to decide, and we want to begin thinking about this concerning the nature of the atonement, what problems had to be solved. And as you recognize, I'm sure from your training, that many theologians hold that God's absolute, vindictive, calculated justice must be totally satisfied in the atonement. And some hymns just frighten me. They represent God the Father as the austere, distant being who insists on absolute, calculated justice, a total vindictive satisfaction which involves every iota of every guilt that's ever going to be passed over. And they represent Jesus as more loving than God the Father, and he kind of comes in between us and the righteous, vindictive wrath of God the Father, and somehow satisfies the righteous, vindictive wrath. So now we can be saved because there's such a literal, technical, absolute payment of every iota of guilt, which must extend to every 5 minutes of our whole life, because there's other involvement in this concept. Is God able to overcome his vindictiveness in forgiveness? Forgiveness doesn't calculate a thing, does it? It has no sense in itself. There's of justice and calculation. It is a movement of heart, recognizing guilt, but wanting to forget the whole thing and forgive. So immediately, we have a great issue to talk about here. Is God able to overcome his vindictive justice, which is unthinkable? When God sees the reality of man's resistance, you can imagine why the Scripture says God is angry with the wicked every day. Can we form some concept of the indignation, the wrath of God, the reactions of God over the way mankind are treating him? Oh, the reactions of God. Now here's the question. Is God's love able to overcome his inner personal reactions so he is willing to forgive? Here's the watershed of the concepts of the atonement. And I'm so thankful, after a few years of my early ministry, trying to carry this load of the satisfaction of vindictive justice, I came to believe in God's free, beautiful forgiveness. But he has some very, very great problems which have to be solved through a great adventure of atonement. But this problem is not the satisfaction of inner, personal, vindictive justice. And this opens up a remarkable difference between ourselves. We know what vindictive justice is. We practice it from our childhood, didn't we? I don't think anybody ever forgives anybody until we meet Jesus, the source of forgiveness. And half of the hospital beds of this hour are filled with those who wouldn't forgive until it damaged their bodies. Forgiveness is real, isn't it? Is God able to forgive? I'm so glad to believe that he's different than I am or I was. Therefore, I'm embarrassed, and I want to become like him. Can you imagine an often presentation of the gospel which omits this great, moving, melting concept of the forgiving love of God? And people don't see that God is different than they are, so they're not motivated to be broken down before his love. Friends, we're saying some dimensional things here. So we're so thankful that God is loving and forgiving.